Hey everybody, Dr. Earl here. It's late night, actually early Saturday morning. I thought I'd present this to you. I'm going to present to you on, thanks to Google Images, some various awkward lineups of some very well-known rock bands. I'm going to start with a very well-known band that has had numerous changes throughout their years, being Black Sabbath. And the reason why I'm doing this is because various bands that we have known, like say this band or that band, has had different lineup changes. Probably had one of the most awkward ones of all time. So I want to present those awkward lineups to you guys tonight. Starting with this lineup of Black Sabbath from 1977. Now the man in the hat, his name is Dave Walker. He filled in for Sabbath as a frontman for a short brief period of time. Ozzy had left briefly because of some oddball reason. I don't know if he was disgruntled over the direction Sabbath was taken, but he later came back. But in between time, Dave Walker came in. Who used to sing with Savoy Brown, and basically he sang it with a couple of songs. A couple of them would later end up as tracks for the album Never Say Die. Now, they only did one performance as this lineup on a show called Look Here on the BBC network that same year. One of the tracks they composed was a track called Junior's Eyes. It was basically a bluesy type stuff there with Dave's usual bluesy lyrics. Now, when Ozzy came back, he didn't like the lyrics that Walker had presented. So they changed the lyrics to that song to reflect on the passing of Ozzy's father, John Michael Signer. Ozzy said that song was basically his way of saying goodbye to his father after being ill for ages. Of course, after that album, Never Say Die, of course, Ozzy would be booted out because he was not only being too disgruntled, but being too high and drunk with it. Fast forward to 1984. We get this lineup. Now, maybe a little bit out of focus and cannot be helped, sorry, because of the camera that I'm using. The man next to Tony, and actually between Tony and Geezer, is David Donato. He only did a couple of sessions with him, plus a photo shoot. Donato would only do this and then depart because basically there was too much confusion between the lineups. Basically, he heard that Geezer didn't like him, Bill Ward didn't like him, or basically this guy didn't like him. Then Geezer called him up to sing on his solo album. Tony called up him to be on his solo album. And Donato said, "I'm sorry, if you guys can't make up your mind, I'm out of here." So that's about it. So this is the only proof of Donato's existence with the Sabs here, right here. Again, we shift forward to 1987. We have here the five-man lineup. Tony Martin on vocals in the middle with the hat. Joe Bird on bass. Tony in between them both. Jeff Nichols, the keyboardist. Rest in peace, brother. And the man on the very left happens to be Terry Chimes, who used to be the drummer for The Clash. Very interesting here because basically he was called in to fill in for drummer Bev Bevan, the former ELO drummer, when he did some shows in South Africa that year. Bev Bevan didn't think that was a good idea. He was against the politics and that went on there, so he departed to be replaced briefly by Terry Chimes, the former Clash drummer. Now, I know this is kind of awkward, but not really awkward, but the photo is kind of blurry. I apologize for that again, folks, but this is what I got to work with, folks. So, moving on to this group, Rat from 1997. Now we know Ratt is usually a five-piece group, but when they got back together in 1987, it was actually a four-piece. Here we see Stephen Pearcy, bassist Robin Crane, Warren DeMartini, and drummer Bobby Blotzer. Juan Croucier was not officially back in the band yet, for some reason. Apparently there's some beef between Blotzer and Croucier, who we often called Crucifer at times. But basically, this lasted for a while before they got themselves a second guitarist. Basically, one of them later on, they would get another second guitarist, Carlos Cavazo of Quiet Riot. Now this is a bitch thing to do right here. Here we see drummer Bobby Blotzer with his version of Ratt from 2016. As you see, he's the only original member here, along with singer Jizzy Pearl or Josh Allen, a couple others as well. Rumor has it that he got together with members of the Sin City Sinners in Las Vegas. They did some shows together. And basically, Blotzer came up with the idea, hey, you guys want to make some real money? Let's go on as Bobby Blotzer's Ratt Experience. Later on, Blotzer came up with the idea, get ownership of the name, and call it Ratt. However, Ratt enthusiasts did not like it one bit. They were upset. People bitching, basically saying this is not Ratt. Stephen Pearcy is the Ratt, whereas Warren DeMartini, what the fuck, and basically this lineup continued for a while until Warren DeMartini, Stephen Pearcy, and Juan Croucier reclaimed ownership of the Ratt name. Blotzer is still trying to get ownership for himself, saying that he is the true pioneer of Ratt. Sorry, he's not. You, Pearcy, Croucier, and DeMartini are the pioneers of Ratt. Sorry, but basically he wanted to go out and make a name for himself in the worst way. As a result, he got himself in a lot of deep shit. Okay, we gotta move on to these metal legends. The very first Metallica lineup. James Hetfield, Ron Montgomery, Lars Ulrich, and David Mustaine. Of course, the fight, Ron would later leave because of the constant bickering between James and Dave. So Cliff Burton came along and they did some shows together. They're getting signed to Megaforce Records. They head out to New York to record, and that's when Mr. Mustaine got the word that he was out of the group. Other metal fans may recognize this group, Flotsam and Jetsam from 1987. And yes, on the far right, in the denim vest, over the leather jacket, the man would later join Metallica, Jason Newsted. Basically, he was, I guess they chose him because, basically he was coming from a fan's perspective, but either way, this man received one of the biggest hazings of all time, I guess, according to some rumors. They said that they would tell people he was gay, they sent bills to him. Basically, that's the way of breaking him in. That's still talked about today, by the way. Of course, Newsted would later leave in 2001 for some oddball reason. And we still don't know what that real reason was. Apparently it was a direction that Metallica was going through at that time. He basically wanted to go back to being a metal band instead of the heavier alternative that they did with a Load and Reload. We may never know. Now this is unique right here. Here's Jason Newsted again with Ozzy Osbourne. Somewhere after he left Metallica, Jason Newsted hooked up with Ozzy, Zakk Wylde, and the drummer from Faith No More, Mike Bourbon, I think his name is. If it isn't, correct me. And he did a couple of Ozfest shows with them. Meanwhile, the guy who played the bassist who played with Ozzy, Robert DeToro, and would end up joining Metallica. And speaking of Mr. Gahul, I'm sorry if I mispronounced his name, folks. Forgive me for that. Here he is with Mike Murr's Infectious Grooves project. That album came out in 1991. I guess he did a few shows. As you see in the middle, Mike Murr, the man behind Suicidal Tendencies. Now, finally for here, this ain't exactly a lineup, but when I just saw this, I had to throw this in. I'm going to send this out to Joe Cronin, since he does a lot of WWE reporting on about what's going on with Raw and SmackDown and whatever pay-per-view they're having. Here we have Roman Reigns on the right and his doppelganger, of course, Robert from Metallica. Yeah, I know it's kind of cheesy, but I figured this is the best way to end the video. And also, by the way, shout out to my doppelganger, Devious Dave Rose. I know Cronin, I don't know if Cronin is going to approve of that, but basically he's the one who started it when he's called up That Ass Podcast saying that I was Rose himself. Good joke, Joe, by the way. But I'm not Dave Rose. Okay, that's it for now, folks. I'm Dr. Earl. Give this video a like. Subscribe to my channel. Up the irons, people.